Welcome back to my channel. I am back with another review. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you know every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed to my channel. I appreciate you all. And let's just get right into this review. So this episode was crazy. And as you know, in last week's episode, Natalie ended up putting all the girls on 2 different Sprinter buses to go to the new Baddies house. She put the OGs plus Jade and Alexis and Ivori V on one bus. And then she ended up putting all the new girls on another bus. And the new girls were beefing the entire time they were on their way to the Baddies house. I mean, they fought numerous amounts of times on this bus. Mostly everybody was against Summer because Summer's one of those girls who, like, if you remember from the Bad Girls Club, she gets too drunk on the first night and she starts talking too much shit and everybody has an issue with her and they want to fight her. Well, that's what happened with Summer on this bus. She first ended up getting into it with Ivory and the two of them started fighting with each other. Then she threw water on Jasmine and the two of them ended up getting into it. And then she ended up getting into a fight with the girl Emma, which I will say, I don't think that Emma should have put her hands on Summer because Summer wasn't really doing anything to her. To be honest with you, I felt like the girls on the bus should have just ignored Summer because to me, she was just talking shit and doing too much, but I didn't feel like it was necessary for anybody to fight her. And after Ivory fought her on the bus and beat her up, I honestly don't think that Emma should have touched her at all. And the fights just didn't happen with Summer because Ivory decided that she wanted to call out Lex on the bus and basically tried to imply that she's a punk because she hadn't fought anybody yet. But Lex was right. The reason why she didn't fight anybody because there was nobody pressing her to fight, so why should she have to fight? And then all of a sudden Pretty P comes out of nowhere and she starts swinging on Lex, so the two of them start fighting on the bus and I was confused by that. So right now I'm not really feeling Pretty P because I just didn't like the way that she went after Lex, because if you were trying to prove something to people on the bus, then why didn't she go after Ivory, who was the one who was calling them punks because they hadn't fought yet? I was confused as to why she chose Lex. Maybe it's because she's afraid of Ivory and she didn't want to be on her bad side and that's why she went after Lex instead, but I'm not really feeling Pretty P at this moment. Now, when they ended up getting off the bus, Lex and Ivory do end up getting into a fight, which I will say it was the best fight of last week's episode because they kept up with each other. I will say that I definitely feel like Lex is a better fighter than Ivory is. However, Ivory definitely can fight and she can hold her own, and that's why I said that it was a tie between the two of them, and I watched it in slow motion, so to me, I just came up that it was a tie. Now, I will say Lex did have a bloody nose, but she said it was because her nose ring got hit, and I'm gonna believe it because the way that she was handling herself in the fight, I really don't think that she was bleeding because Ivory just busted her in the nose. So at the very beginning of this episode, Jasmine and Summer end up fighting each other, which this was a really weak fight to me. Like, I'm sorry, they could have kept this one. I don't even agree with these girls fighting the way that they do. I don't think that they have to fight numerous amounts of times, but the way that Jasmine and Summer were swinging on each other was just weak to me. So I was confused as to why Jasmine was running around yelling about how she beat up Summer when to me, neither one of them won that fight and they were barely connecting any hits. And that's just my opinion from when I watched the fight, and I watched it a couple of times just to make sure, and to me it just wasn't good. And I kind of liked Jasmine a little bit at the beginning of last week's episode. I just wish that she wouldn't have given Summer so much attention and she wouldn't have gotten into it with Summer in the first place, because honestly that made it look like she couldn't fight when she did this fight with Summer. And then on top of that, I just felt like she was giving Summer the attention that Summer wants. Summer runs her mouth and acts the way that she does because she doesn't care and she wants attention and she wants to be able to stay on the show, and these girls are giving her exactly what she wants. But then Summer ends up fighting again. She ends up fighting Yoshi, which I was really confused as to why her and Yoshi started fighting because I didn't see the two of them get into anything. Let me know in the comment section if I missed something between the two of them. But they start fighting and obviously Summer ended up beating up Yoshi. I think that was an easy win for her because Yoshi said in her confessional that she's not a fighter and she doesn't even want to fight. So that was an easy win for Summer, but she definitely beat her up. I mean, she tossed her to the ground and she was on top of her. It just got crazy. Yoshi got in her confessional though and said that she's not a fighter and that she's a baddie in different ways and it's not because of fighting, and that all the girls are a lot bigger than her and she is small in size, like she is really skinny, but I don't feel like there's that much of a difference between her and Summer. So I was confused as to why she was acting like she couldn't fight because she's smaller than everybody, because Anna's also almost just as skinny as Yoshi is and she still has fought people that were bigger than her. Now I'm not saying that you have to fight, but when you come on a show like this where people are going to press you for stupid reasons, and I'll talk about that later on in this episode because there was a stupid reason that somebody had to fight in this episode. I just feel like this is probably not the right show for Yoshi to be on because she's going to quickly fall behind. Like, we're not going to really pay attention to her because she doesn't really stand out, in my opinion. And I'm not saying she should have to fight to stand out, but if she doesn't want to fight, she came on the wrong show. Then Ivory starts yelling at Big Lex again, and the two of them are going back and forth with each other, which Ivory definitely started that beef with Big Lex. Lex wasn't doing anything to her, and all of a sudden she decided that she wanted to call her out. And honestly, I feel like Ivory underestimated Lex. Like, I think she thought that fighting her was going to be an easy win because she was kind of quiet on the bus, but that wasn't really how it was when they fought. And Ivory ended up getting in her confessional, and she did admit that Lex can fight and that she hit really hard. And so she did admit that in her confessional, which I think it's good that she admitted it, but I definitely do think that the reason why she was pressing Lex is because she underestimated her. But while the two of them are going back and forth, the OGs end up pulling up to the house, and they see all the girls' wigs ripped off, they see their shirts kind of ripped, they see them looking all messy like they've been rolling around in the dirt, and they're confused as to what the hell's going on. And Ivory immediately calls out Jela to fight, and Jela starts taking off her jewelry to fight her, and while she's taking off her jewelry, Lex and Ivory start fighting again. Now look, again, the two of them keep up with each other really well. To me, both of them can fight. I definitely do think that Lex is a better fighter than Ivory, but like I said before, Ivory definitely keeps up. So to me, they have the best fights so far on the show because they're the only two so far that I've seen actually keep up with each other. But Lex did end up falling during this fight, but it was because the grass is really wet and slippery. That's why one of the girls told them that they should probably take their shoes off and fight barefoot because the grass was really slippery. But then Jela and Ivory start fighting with each other, and to me it was kind of a boring fight. I mean, they did swing on each other, both of them connected a couple of times, but to me it wasn't really a good fight. It was weak and it lasted only a few seconds long. And then after the fight, Jela ended up shaking Ivory's hand and basically telling her that they can squash their beef. Now personally, I don't really think that the two of them actually had a beef in the first place, so I don't think that it was weak of Jela to say that she wanted to squash the beef with Ivory and shake hands. However, if this was anybody else, I feel like Jela would want to keep going and keep wanting to fight them, because last season she kept wanting to fight Biggie, but when it came to Ivory, she was willing to squash the beef after the first fight. I'm not saying that Jela was afraid of Ivory, I'm just saying that she probably didn't want to have to fight her again. And then Dolly ends up calling out Anna and saying that she wanted to fight Anna, but Anna said that she did not want to fight Dolly. Now look, I don't know if Anna's afraid of Dolly or if she just didn't want to fight her because she doesn't feel like they have legitimate beef, but the two of them did not end up fighting each other because Anna just refused to do it, and Dolly said that she was not going to fight somebody who did not want to fight her. I don't think that she wanted to fight Dolly because the way that Dolly was swinging on people and had them bleeding at the auditions. That's just my opinion, but who knows. Then Jasmine and Summer start yelling at each other again, and I just wish that Jasmine would stop entertaining Summer because honestly, I'm just annoyed that Summer keeps yelling and keeps talking every 2 seconds, so I just wish that people would stop entertaining her. But Jasmine kept entertaining her, and then she started yelling at, Summer, telling her that she needs to call out Jela and Biggie because apparently she has an issue with Jela and Biggie that nobody knew about. And Anna does end up going to Summer and asking her what her issue with Biggie is, and she said that the reason why she has a problem with Biggie is because at the auditions when Summer got her wig snatched off, Biggie was smelling it, trying to say that it stunk and telling other girls to smell it too. And this is my thing about Biggie. She should not be running her mouth the way she does, yet she doesn't want to fight. I'm not saying she should have to fight, but like, she talks too much shit for somebody who doesn't want to fight, and that's the reason why I have an issue with her, because if she doesn't want to fight, then she should just stay out of stuff. But because she was sniffing the girl's wig and telling everybody that the girl's wig stunk, I mean, the girl has an issue with you. I'm not saying that they should be fighting over a wig, because to me that's a stupid reason to fight, but I just feel like Biggie just runs her mouth a little bit too much for somebody who doesn't want to fight. And then all of a sudden, Pretty P, who I don't really like this season so far, maybe my mind will change, but for right now I don't really like her because I feel like she's just trying to fight people because she wants to stand out and she doesn't want to fall into the background. So she starts telling everybody that she wants to fight Lex. So Lex is ready to fight her because of what Pretty P did to her on the bus. So they start fighting with each other, and she lost that fight really quickly. Lex definitely took over that fight and she won. And then right after Lex beat her up, she did not want to fight her again. She turned her attention to Diamond the Body, and she claims that the reason why she wants to fight Diamond the Body is because Diamond looked at her some type of way. And And that's stupid to me. Like, that's extremely immature. Like, we are not 10 years old anymore where girls used to want to fight you because you looked at them. Like, we're too grown to be fighting people over something that stupid. And everybody thought that that was really a stupid reason to want to fight. And Tinkabellaaa felt like Pretty P was just coming after Diamond because she knows that Diamond is already injured still from the fight that she had with Tasiki. Her lip is still messed up and she's still missing her tooth. And so she decided to take all her rings off and she decided to be the one to fight Pretty P. And honestly, I have to say Tinkabellaaa is fighting better than she did last season, because last season she would just duck her head down and just basically try to like ram into somebody and push them down, and it never really worked. This time she was actually swinging and she won this fight between her and Pretty P. Like, she definitely beat up Pretty P. She had her up against the sprinter and everything. It was just embarrassing because Pretty P sat up there and wanted to fight Diamond the Body for something stupid and then ended up getting beat up herself. Then she wanted to fight Tinkabellaaa again, so they're getting ready to fight each other, and all of a sudden Diamond the Body comes from behind and she starts hitting Pretty P. Now, I don't agree with fighting somebody from behind because I just didn't think that that was necessary. If Diamond wanted to fight Pretty P, she should have just told Tinkabellaaa, no, let me fight her myself because I'm the one that got called out. Her hitting her from behind to me was stupid. So then Pretty P wants to fight Tinkabellaaa again, and she fights Tinkabellaaa again, and again Tinkabellaaa ends up winning that fight. She even ends up getting Pretty P down on the ground. So at this point, I was just over Pretty P fighting Tinkabellaaa, because if they fought another round, then Tinkabellaaa was going to win again, and it just would have kept going and going and going. So I was glad that it ended right there. And then all of a sudden, Emma comes out of nowhere because she wants the camera to be on her, and she starts calling out Scotty, saying that she has a problem with her because Scotty's boring every season, and she came to take her spot, and she wanted to fight Scotty just because she feels like Scotty is boring. And that's just a stupid reason to me to want to fight somebody. Like, if she's boring, just don't pay attention to her. I agree with what Tasiki and Rolly said in their confessionals, that this was a stupid reason to fight, and I feel like, you know, Emma just wanted some camera time and she didn't want to fall into the background, and that's the reason why she was looking for somebody to fight. Because honestly, it was weird to me that she called out Scotty and didn't call out anybody else. Like, you called out the girl who never really wants to fight and can't really fight, and to me that was weak. Now, the two of them do end up fighting each other, and honestly, it was a weak fight. Really, neither one of them really did anything. Security was in the way the whole time, but Scotty definitely defended herself. She didn't get beat up and she held her own. So to me, Emma looks like a fool because you sat up there and called out somebody that you thought was boring and tried to fight her, and you didn't even beat her up. And then Summer and Ivory start fighting, and honestly, this was a really quick fight. It was a quick win for Ivory because she immediately started swinging on Summer, and Summer ended up falling to the ground, and that was the end of that. Honestly, Summer needs to stop fighting because she fought way too much in the past 2 episodes. And then Natalie starts telling everybody that they have a booking that they need to go to at a club later on that night, and she doesn't want anybody going into the house if they still have issues with each other and want to fight. So she asked if anybody had anybody else to call out, and Lex basically ended up calling out Jela, telling Jela that she felt like she was a bully last season because she feels like she went after Biggie and Gretchen, 2 people who can't really fight, and she kept fighting them continuously. But then when it came to Ivory, she was willing to squash it and not fight her again after that one time. And honestly, I did think that Lex was right. However, I don't think that she should have called out Jela. I think she should have waited to see if her and Jela would have gotten into something at some point, because I do like Lex. She's like my favorite right now this season out of the new girls because she's really pretty. She seems calm, cool, and collected, and if you start something with her, she's gonna finish it, and I like that about her. She's not really a troublemaker. She just fights if she has to, and I like that about her, and I'm actually liking her this season. I just didn't think that it was really necessary for her to call out Jela. I just didn't feel like it was a reason because they don't really have a history and they don't have any beef. So at this point, Natalie was able to get all the girls inside of the house without an issue to have a house meeting, a messy house meeting, which she wants them to fight at, which we know that's the reason why she puts together these house meetings. But the new girls were in another room while the OGs plus Akbar V and Jade and Alexis were all talking. And Akbar V starts telling Biggie that she needs to start defending herself because when Summer called her out outside, she didn't say anything. She just sat there and let it happen. And that's when Biggie started saying that she didn't want to fight and that this season she already said that she was not fighting anybody, so she doesn't think it's a big deal. She also said that she was not going to fight somebody over a wig, and that's just what she's standing on this season. But Anna ended up telling her that just because she doesn't want to physically fight doesn't mean that she can't defend herself verbally, because when the girl was calling her out, Biggie could have at least said something, but Biggie said that she was not doing it, and that's just what she's going to do. I don't know why they just won't let her be a punk. If the girl says she doesn't want to fight nobody, just let her not fight nobody. Like, everybody shouldn't be jumping down her throat telling her to defend herself. However, I will say that Biggie is looking like a little bit of a hypocrite because when it was the season with, Smiley, and Smiley wasn't really defending herself when everybody was yelling in her face and stuff like that, she was one of the people that was yelling at Smiley, telling her that she needs to defend herself and that she looks like a punk, but yet she's doing the same thing that Smiley was doing a few seasons ago. Then the other girls end up getting involved and telling her that she didn't even stand on business for Anna when Summer was pressing her, and she said that she wasn't doing it because she wasn't going to fight for anybody because nobody fights for her. And that's when Anna gets really upset because Anna has fought for Biggie. We've seen that throughout the seasons, and she definitely gets involved every time Biggie gets involved in an issue with somebody. And so I did think that that was kind of messed up that Biggie said that. However, Anna should just stop doing it, and then her feelings won't be hurt. Like, stop defending Biggie because she's not defending you, and then you won't feel no type of way about it. But I will say I do agree with Rolly when she told Biggie that if she doesn't want to fight, then she should probably stop running her mouth, because she does run her mouth a lot, and then when somebody presses her, she doesn't want to fight. If you don't want to fight, that's fine. You don't have to be a fighter, but then you shouldn't be talking about people, because if you're talking about somebody, a lot of these girls are fighters, and when they find out what you said about them, they're going to want to fight you. So I do agree with Rolly when she said that. However, I do understand how some people in the comment sections are conflicted because they don't understand why everybody's jumping down Biggie's throat for not wanting to fight Summer, but they're not jumping down Anna's throat for saying that she didn't want to fight Dolly. And I can understand where people are coming from with that because it is a double standard. However, Anna does have a history of defending herself when somebody wants to fight her, and Biggie really doesn't. But now Natalie ends up bringing all the new girls in, which I'm surprised they all walked into a room together without fighting each other, but they did not. And so Ivory and Summer immediately start going at it back and forth with each other as soon as Natalie asked what happened on the bus for all of them to be fighting like that. And honestly, I agree with what Big Lex said about Summer in her confessional, that people take Summer too seriously, and anytime she says anything, everybody wants to jump down her throat and try to fight her, when really she's not bothered by Summer, and that's the reason why she doesn't argue with her, and that's the reason why she hasn't fought her. And I completely agree with that because Summer's just running her mouth and trying to get attention. I don't understand why these girls keep giving her the attention that she so desperately wants. They're gonna make people like Summer just off the basis of them ganging up on her and constantly fighting her. This is what happens all the time. When you constantly gang up on somebody and you're constantly trying to fight them, and every time they say something, people jump down their throats, they end up being the fan favorite. And then Diamond ends up asking Pretty P why she wanted to fight her, and she said that Diamond was sitting around looking stupid, and that's the reason why she wanted to fight her. So Diamond said that she's going to give Pretty P what she wants, and she's going to keep fighting her because that's what Diamond does. I feel like Pretty P just wanted to be in a beef with Diamond the Body because Diamond the Body ended up getting voted fan favorite last season, and so that's the person that she wants to be connected to. I honestly wish that Diamond wouldn't give her the attention that she wants, because to me, that's exactly what Pretty P is trying to do. Then Natalie ends up asking Emma why she wanted to fight Scotty, because she was boring, and she said that that's the reason why she wanted to fight Scotty, because she felt like she's pretty but she doesn't do anything every season and she's taking up space. And that's when somebody, I don't know who it was, but somebody said that she should have called out Tasiki then too, because people say that Tasiki's boring as well, and she immediately said that she didn't feel like Tasiki was boring. Like, girl, no, you think Tasiki's boring too, you just didn't want to fight her because you saw what she's capable of. That's why she wanted to go after Scotty, because she knew that Scotty couldn't fight. We have yet to see Emma fight somebody who's known to be able to fight. We only saw her fight Summer, who obviously can't really fight that much. The only time she won a fight was with Yoshi in this episode, and then we saw her fight Scotty, who's not a fighter and can't really fight either. Then at the very end of this episode, Rolly ends up asking Lex why she pressed Ivory on the bus, and Lex immediately cleared that up and said that she wasn't the one that started questioning Ivory. Ivory's the one that started with her, which is true. Ivory tried to imply that Lex was a punk because she hadn't fought anybody yet and everybody else was on the sprinter fighting, so that's the reason why the two of them ended up getting into it. Then Ivory starts yelling at Lex, and Lex starts yelling at Ivory, and then Summer ends up getting involved, so then Ivory's yelling at both Lex and Summer, and Natalie ends up immediately trying to shut them up because she wants to tell them something, and she lets them know that they have a club booking later that night, and if anybody fights each other at the club booking, they're immediately getting sent home. So now these girls have to make a decision. Are we going to get sent home fighting each other at the club, or are we going to wait until we get back to the house? Now, I hope that they wait till they get back at the house, but I'm interested to see what happens in next week's episode.